Welcome everybody to Red Suit Interviews, and we are joined by the pizza myth, the cheesy topping man, the mushroomy legend, Mr. Cynic Snacks. How are we today, my good sir?
Yeah, I'm pretty good, man. Feeling a bit like run down. I've been working quite hard recently. Um, Trying to pay my bills. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like I've not very recently, but I'd quit kind of my big boy full-time corporate job because it was making me depressed. Uh, and then I ran away to Asia for a while and spent all my money, and now I'm back in the UK. I've moved to a new town, and I'm trying to be like self-employed.
Yeah.
Um, so that's it, difficult.
Yeah, I get that. It's hard doing the whole like contracting work, but for those who don't know you, which look, you're probably one of the most like talented YouTubers that I've seen, especially.
Oh,
Uh,
thank you, man.
who are you and what do you do?
So my name is Ash. I'm an animator, I guess. I really struggle to kind of like label myself as that because I always get this really horrible like imposter complex when it comes to that sort of thing. So I guess you can say I'm an editor. Like I'm comfortable being like, yes, I edit things.
Okay.
Um, and I've done that professionally for like 5 years now since uh kind of like finishing university.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I want to make funny, stupid cartoons, but I didn't feel confident enough in my abilities to do that straight out of the gate. So to begin with, my first foray into online creation was to make my YouTube channel, which is Cynic Snacks, in which I take the piss out of the lowest hanging fruit of the media world, which is terrible B movies.
Yeah, that's
um,
good quality stuff though.
I try. I do try.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm very curious. Like, how did you initially get into making these videos? Because, like you said, you sort of got this ambition to do like other film projects. So, like, what
Yeah.
initially spurred you on to going down and reviewing like these dumpster fire films?
I guess it's a combination of things. Kind of, I'd wanted to start a YouTube channel for quite a few years, and I think this is the same for when you speak to any YouTuber. They've always had the idea way in the past. Um, and it's just something I never really had the confidence to commit to. When I was in university, I used to film around my uni house because we lived in a pretty wild house, let's say. There was always loads of crazy stuff going on, and it was interesting. So I'd more often than not, I'd have my camera out just filming just the hijinks we used to get up to, and I'd edit those videos together. And I started like the format of my own show, so it was kind of like a docu series about my university house, and it had like a proper intro and a theme song and all of the trappings that you'd expect. But I only really shared that with my friends and kept it very contained. I never really felt confident enough to try and push it out there and advertise it, and do you know what I mean? Kind of make
Yeah,
it appeal to a wider audience.
no, I get what you mean.
That's since been deleted. Thanks, YouTube. Um,
Why was it deleted from
and
YouTube?
there was a this was because it was quite a few years ago. There was a time when they were purging inactive, quote unquote, inactive accounts. And the
Oh,
account that I posted it on, I hadn't logged into it for maybe 6 months, and they just purged it. It was gone.
oh,
But yet I've still got another account that I had from like 10 years ago, which I just posted like random crap onto that's still there and it's fine. So
okay.
thanks, YouTube. Thank you for deleting all of my edited memories from university. Thank you, assholes.
Well, yeah, even talking about
um,
going into talking about
oh,
what were you about to say? Sorry.
I was just going to say, so, I'd always been sort of like dabbling, and I wanted to find a solid idea that I'd feel comfortable to kind of push and share and grow. And like, what I really want to be doing is creating original content. Like, I've got so many stories and like scripts and storyboards drawn and characters designed and blah blah blah, all like folders and folders and folders of stuff on the copious amounts of hard drives I've got laying around the house. But I never wanted to commit to creating something that would take such an amount of effort and time and energy to show it to nobody, because I just kind of feel like, what's the point?
No, I get that. I
And
get
so
that. Yeah.
my idea was to try and cultivate an audience first, and through creating something, whatever it ends up being, to bring people in who maybe are interested in the style of my animation, or the personality that I have, or the different facets of what I'm creating. And then hopefully when the day comes that I actually invest like 6 months and produce something original and that I want to put out there, hopefully a percentage of those people will not mind that it's different. And I've won them over, if you like. That's kind of the goal. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah, go on. Sorry, I was disagreeing.
when thinking about what that was going to be, I was just like, obviously I need to talk about something. I need a subject matter that's expansive, that has many different topics, if you like, within it. And I thought, I don't feel comfortable talking about current affairs and politics, because I think I don't know enough. I'm not smart enough to start blabbering on about those kinds of things, because I'm not informed. And so obviously there've been instances where that has happened on like Twitter, or instances on the podcast that I participate in where that's happened, and I should stop doing that because I'm an idiot and I don't know anything.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, what do I know enough about to feel comfortable to talk at length? And obviously, I studied film at university, and so I studied it leading up to that as well. I did film studies at A level and media studies GCSE, but I felt comfortable in my knowledge to be able to produce content and feel that I know more maybe than the average Joe about this topic, and so maybe I have something to offer. But then when I started doing real film analysis, two things messed me up. One was that imposter complex that I've got, thinking, shit, do I know enough about this? Should I
Yeah.
be putting this out there? And then the other one was basically just I don't I can write well and humorously about things that are bad, but I really struggle to write something entertaining about things that are good. So all the scripts I've
Yeah.
got where I'm trying to praise something, I end up saying the same stuff over and over again, and I have a very limited range of ways to express a positive feedback about something.
That's a
So I
really
kind of
that's
thought,
actually a
right,
really interesting point there. I get what you mean, especially with that.
there's so many different ways that I can bash on something, and I do,
Yeah.
that's a fault of mine, I guess. I should probably get better at writing,
Well, it's
better at.
yeah. I just like I think about it even to like how I've done stuff in the past. Like even like if I go back and I think of like every screw up that's done, and I could like think back to like Cool Cat movie, I could be like, that's bad, that's bad, that's bad. But when I just think of like something that's good, I'm like, oh, that was a really cool writing, or that was just like very broadly. And I
Yeah.
think even in what like because on my channel, like one of the first things you can see on my channel is like a Batman analysis, which I haven't had the goals to take down, which is I just praise it the entire time. But it just I get what you mean. You sort of just the entire time is just like this was good. This was good. I like
I
this a
like
lot.
this.
Yeah, this is good. This is fun. And it just doesn't have that same like kick to it.
Motion. Yeah.
Yeah. Um I get what you mean. It's a lot easier to like analyze and break something down when there's a flaw to it rather than when
Yeah.
something's good.
And I think a lot more humor can be derived from something that's you have a negative view of as well.
Yeah.
Like, what's funny about you enjoying something?
Yeah.
That's not funny. Who cares? Wow, you had a good time. Fuck you. Like,
No, I definitely get what you mean with that.
so yeah, so then it came around to when I was in university. Like I've gone through many different phases of enjoying different kinds of cinema. So when I first started studying film seriously in A level, when I was in college, which is before university for your American listeners, um, the school system's different in the UK, and it's always confusing with the lingo. Um, I got really into world cinema, and more specifically, like kind of Asian movies, so like Japanese movies and like South Korean movies. And I had like a period where that was kind of all I'd watch, and I was really into that. Um, and then after that, when I was in university, uh, wait, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm just listening.
Oh, sorry,
That's right.
Discord's being really fucky, and it's just doing the whole green circle the whole
Oh, that's
time.
always that's been doing that for a while. That's,
Okay.
yeah.
But yeah, then when I got into university, I think it was just because the amount of alcohol I was consuming had increased like tenfold, and my
Yeah.
brain wasn't capable of processing complex cinema anymore.
Yeah.
But I really, really got into shitty movies. So one of my um, housemates in first year, when we were in the like university halls, um, was really into bad movies too, and we used to watch them together. And then after that, I kind of introduced my other friendship group to that, and I'd kind of like sit people down and force them to watch these crappy movies with me. And I think the one that really kicked it off was Troll 2. That
Mm.
was like the first time I'd watched a terrible movie, and rather than feeling like, oh god, I need to turn this off, or like, oh, I need to leave, I was just completely captivated by it. I was like, this is incredible. How did this get made? Who made these decisions? What thought process went into any of this? And I was just amazed. I don't really know what to attribute that to, but after then I was just obsessed. I was like, right, I need to find the crappiest films ever because these are hilarious. I was like, I guess I just kind of it was just exhaustion. When you're watching like really like highbrow arty stuff for a long time, I
Mm.
guess I just kind of got tired of it.
Mm.
So when I was in university, I was like talking to my peers, if you like, and they were all talking about like, oh, Gus Van Sant and oh, Harmony Korine and blah blah and all this shit, and I was like, nah, mate, go watch Killer Clowns from Outer Space. It's so bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wasn't really on the same wavelength as any of those guys.
No, I get what you
So yeah,
mean.
so I'd had this passion for shit movies had already kind of brewed in me a few years prior, and I guess it was just when I was sat down trying to come up with what do I want to talk about, these different experiences all kind of converged at once, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do videos about shitty movies. So I did a little bit of research. I started like digging around on YouTube to see other creators that do a similar sort of thing. Came across I Hate Everything, which is like the clearly the obvious. He's kind of like the big daddy
Mm.
of that sort of that avenue online. So
Mm.
I watched quite a lot of his content to kind of see how he did things and pick up just the structure and format of how to put a video together and how to do it. I didn't end up really copying his homework
Yeah, I get what you
if
mean.
you get what I mean. But it was definitely useful and instrumental in my the the, the building of my ideas to watch through his stuff. But then I didn't really go much further than that. Like I've obviously watched like Your Movie Sucks, Ralph the Movie Maker, but then in terms of like movie criticism, I didn't really watch too much because I went off on a tangent, and then I was already a big fan of JonTron
Mm.
and kind of the early the the YouTube YouTube legends, if you like, of kind of Filthy Frank, Max Mofo, iDubbbz, the obvious ones, the ones that everyone kind of looks up to.
Yeah.
And I liked a kind of the anarchy that they brought. But I think because at the time of this kind of the conception of this idea, I'd just come out of I was working as a producer at Disney. So straight out of university, I'd pretty much got into a role working with Disney, and I think they've had a definite effect on me
Hmm.
because I've always had a very kind of very dark, kind of gritty, horrible uh, art style,
Yeah.
which you can kind of see in some of my stuff. Lots of my stuff isn't really available online anymore, but at the kind of early stages of the Instagram account that I currently have is a
Yeah.
bit more
Yeah.
kind of me. And over time, I guess working in the House of Mouse and being surrounded by constant happiness has crushed me a bit and made me a bit kind of more colorful, let's say.
Yeah, because it's quite interesting. Because I was watching, yeah, the Doctor Giggles review, and you're talking about like the shows you used to watch and the shows you loved, and it's like it was like it was Danger Five, and what was some of the other
Mm.
ones? Uh,
Like Ren and Stimpy.
yeah, and I'm not too sure if this was even in the Q&A one as well. Like talking about who did Salad Fingers and like really enjoying that
Oh,
content.
David Firth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
David Firth and enjoying, and I'm like, this does not seem like I was expecting like a completely different like influence, especially with like where the type of art style comes
Yeah.
from and animation. But it's like very interesting that you've come from like that sort of like influence with sort of like more sort of like avant-garde, um, darker sort of sense of animation. And like you said, like Instagram like initially shows that.
Yeah, so I guess it kind of comes from so working in Disney, and then after Disney, I'd moved on to do a very similar role, but at Cartoon Network at Turner Broadcasting. Um, just I guess doing the 9 to 5 and being surrounded by these like kind of like colorful, happy, bright, very heavily brand focused IPs constantly. I guess has kind of trained me in a way to build stuff in a certain way, and I think Junk Film Review, the channel as it is now, as a package, is kind of one idea, and I don't think that completely encapsulates me, if you like, as a creator. It's just
Yeah.
kind of our project. So hopefully in the future, when I change and do something different, some of my subscribers will stick around. Um, but I think hopefully some of the jokes that I put, well, I say jokes, they're just kind of moaning. Some of the moaning that I do in my videos is kind of dark and has this like nasty undertone. Like I think one of my favorites was comparing watching a movie to spending an evening in removing your toenails with blunt cutlery.
Yeah.
Um, but the kind of that attitude and that darkness is still there under the surface. It's just kind of got this very bright, colorful, happy, like oh everything's fine kind of
Yeah.
aesthetic.
Yeah.
And I think as it goes on, I kind of want to play with that a little bit. It's just I really don't feel like a lot of this is a conscious decision. It's really strange, like the process in terms of creating it. It kind of it sounds really pretentious, but a lot of it I feel like it just kind of creates itself. And I know that I'm the one pressing the buttons and drawing the things, but loads of it isn't a deliberate choice. It's just kind of how I feel at the time. It's hard
Yeah,
to
I get what you
explain.
mean.
I don't really know how to
Yeah, you're sort of just going.
explain it without sounding like a dickhead.
No,
But
I get what you're saying. And I'm because you said there, like especially like this isn't your main sort of like you didn't come to YouTube because you're like, oh, I really enjoy wanting to do film reviews because you see it as more like an avenue to go further
yeah,
somewhere. Do you find it with that difficult to stay motivated doing the film reviews as it's not your main sort of I guess purpose with this all?
for the time being, it's fine. I think I do struggle with motivation a lot, and that's not just in this project. That's just in general.
Hmm.
Um, I've always been a kind of a last minute kind of a guy,
Yeah.
and I don't operate well unless I'm under like a really like strict deadline and like
Oh yeah.
people are gonna die.
Yeah,
Like,
preaching to the choir,
unless
brother.
unless honestly unless lives are on the line, I'm gonna really struggle to focus.
Yeah.
Because there's so many different things that I want to do, and I need more structure in my life, but I don't have the discipline to introduce that myself.
Yeah.
So one example, with the way that kind of YouTube copyright is going in terms of music and people claiming stuff and blah blah blah. I I really want to get to a point where every single element, apart from the media that I'm critiquing, every single element of the channel I've created myself.
Hmm.
So including, like sound effects, sound design, any music that I put in there. So I've like been slowly acquiring lots of musical instruments. Like I've got a xylophone, a harmonica. I just bought a Casio tone off Gumtree
Yeah.
like a week ago, just to do little stings and jingles and stuff, and learn piano a little bit. But but that's just like so tangential. I should be writing scripts and drawing and doing my animation, and instead I'm learning how to play the Wii Shop theme song on fucking keyboard.
It's not even
It's
the.
like,
It's not
why am
even
I?
Meat Plaza or the Meat Plaza. It's a Wii shop. It's the. Yeah, I get what you
Like,
mean.
why am I doing that?
Yeah, I get what you mean with that, especially.
But it's all part of a process, and I think uh, it's weird being. Well, I don't know how different it is to not be, but for me as a creative person, I can't control. This is probably another discipline thing, but I can't control when it hits me,
Yeah.
when I'm in the zone, and when I'm doing stuff, and I'm really enjoying it, and it's great, and what I'm making looks good, and I'm happy with it.
Yeah.
That can come at fucking 4 in the morning. That can come at just the most random times, and so with this whole like being self-employed and trying to stay motivated and get my content made, I get up in the morning, I go sit at my desk, and then just nothing hits me, and I could sit there
Hmm.
all fucking day and just everything I draw sucks, everything I write isn't funny. I try and find media to like clips to look at, and they're just all boring, and I'm like, it's not working. Like, how can I structure myself better to make this happen? And that's kind of why I end up going on these tangents like, oh well, one day in the future I'm gonna need to make my own music, so I better go and learn the fucking keyboard. Like, no, stop. Like, focus.
I get what you mean. No, no, that is very like relatable even to my experience because it's like, oh, I should really learn how to use After Effects better. But I really like playing guitar, and I think guitar is like great. So I'm just gonna go off and learn like a song. Uh, oh, I haven't uploaded anything, and it's like 2 days
Yeah.
past my upload schedule. Ah, I see.
Yeah, I
Fallen.
think I need I need to try and make myself more accountable, because I was really good at it last year, from June through the year. So June, July, August, September, October, all the way through the year, I was very good. And at that time, I was working, like 50 hours, like Monday to Friday, in a full time difficult job in at Cartoon Network. But I'd still managed to find the time and energy and motivation to make videos outside of that and post them. And now I'm kind of working a bit more freeform, and I'm editing for a few of the YouTube channels, and I'm doing the odd bit here and there of other commissions and paintings, or some kind of uh, graphic design type stuff. Yet I'm struggling to kind of get the engine running again with my stuff. Like, I've got a
Yeah.
video that's in the works at the moment. It's very, very close to being done. Um, I'm just struggling with it, and I don't know. I can't identify the problem, but I open it up and I sit there and I'll click around for hours, and
Yeah.
then I look at it. I'm like, I've got really not got any further than I was yesterday. Like, what the fuck? What's going on?
No, I get what you're saying with that, and it's quite interesting. Even like you're talking about, like, so you say you do contract editing for other YouTubers.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you does this ever feel to you like sort of like I don't know why it necessarily would feel weird because it's just an I guess like when you're doing video contracting it might feel the same, but like does it feel like you might have any sort of like does it have any sense of like difference, especially when you've got your own YouTube channel there? Like how does that feel trying to work with other people's YouTube content when you have your own as well?
Um, well, I guess to me it just kind of feels the same as when I was working before at Cartoon Network. I'd be producing commercials, or like uh, sometimes we'd contract out and design games and other stuff like that. It would always be a creative project that involved a lot of a similar skills and a lot of similar like energy.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of that. It's if anything, it's a lot better just because I've got a bit more creative freedom. Because obviously I'm working
Mm.
directly with the person who or persons who are putting the content out there. So there's a lot more room to kind of express myself and change things and put ideas forward, and it's a lot more fluid. Whereas before it was always a very strictly regimented, like, no, this is the intellectual property, these are the brand guidelines, this is the rules, you can't do this, you can't say that. Like, especially in kids TV, there's so many
Yeah.
rules, there's so many things you can't do. It's insane. And I kind of like got used to it eventually, but when I was at Disney, I was making so many mistakes just because they're the strictest of them all. They've got this kind of very family friendly, you can trust us brand, and there's just so much shit. It's just like, nope, you can't say dang, you can't say but, you can't focus on a but for more than 2 seconds, you can't have fart noises. It's like, well, I've all my jokes are gone. Like what? I've got nothing left. Um, but so like yeah, I do prefer what I'm doing now. I just need to structure myself better, and also it would help if other people structured themselves better too. It's a bit kind of like, am I editing a video today? No, okay, maybe tomorrow. No, okay, maybe tomorrow. And it's
Hmm.
kind of like there's a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah. So what?
Um,
So what type of content are you usually editing for YouTube?
So I've got a regular slot editing for a UK commentary channel. There's a guy called James Marriott.
Mm-hmm.
He's at around 910k subs at the moment. He's on his push for 1 million, which should be hopefully within the next like month or so. Um, so he does roughly about a video a week. Sometimes a little bit quicker than that. Sometimes a little bit slower than that. There's not really like a strict, this is the day the video comes out sort of thing,
Mm.
um, which is fine. Like uh, it works. I just need to be able to manage my own time better.
Yeah.
Um, and then there's a few other projects I'm working on. Like I've done like a short piece of animation on. There's a guy called Mauler. I don't know if you know him.
Yeah.
He
Apparently,
does.
apparently, him and I sound similar. that's
No,
that's like
not
all.
at all.
That's like every comment regarding me, especially most comments in the podcast, or even my interview with CJ, was you sound like Mauler. You should talk to Mauler. It would be great.
I mean, he's Welsh
Yeah.
and you're Australian,
Yeah.
um, and he's definitely got a way bassier voice.
Well, that's the issue is that in the
I
interview
suppose that
recording, it came like I had a very deep voice for no I don't know how it happened, but I had a very very deep voice in the
uh,
podcast. And my friend,
that'll be it then, I guess.
yeah, my friend at the time was like, "Oh, you had a very deep voice in the podcast." I'm like, "Oh, I was a bit tired, I don't know." And he's like, "Yeah, I don't know. Were you putting it on?" I'm like, "No, no, I doesn't do anything." Oh, okay. And
No, no, of course not. No.
yeah, and then I go back and listen to it. It's like, I'm like, what's going on? So
Yeah, so Mauler, the long man, he does like long form
yeah,
film
yeah.
and TV analysis.
Puts
I've done
yeah, go on.
there's like an animated section in his next video. It should be out soon. I'm not gonna say when because I don't know. I'm not gonna screw him over by being like, yeah, guys, it's out tomorrow.
Yeah, come on, Mullet, what's up?
I'm working on an animated sequence for a video for a channel called Nerd City.
Oh
Are
yeah,
you aware of
yeah,
him? He's he's awesome. He's a really cool guy.
yeah, yeah,
I like his videos a lot, and that's kind of one of the strange things is that he's like him and James, I guess, James Marriott. That they're channels that I used to just watch casually myself. Before like
yeah. Mm,
I even thought about taking this seriously.
yeah,
And now to sort of open up a kind of a line of communication with those guys and even be working with them, and it's just very surreal, I think, but it's
yeah.
cool at the same time. Like I enjoy it. So yeah, I've got a section, oh, I'd say 3.5 to 4 minutes of stuff that I'm working with him. I can't really disclose anything else about it
Yeah,
because
obviously.
he hasn't explicitly said, "Oh, don't tell anyone about this," but I just,
You don't want to do it, yeah.
don't want to say anything. But it's funny. I like it. It looks cool, and it's a bit more towards my what I want to be doing.
Yeah.
So that's been good. It's just finding the time to do it because it's just with especially with something like that that's just like pure original drawings and animations. Like it's so time consuming. And obviously, when I'm working with other people, especially other creators, it's really hard to find the balance because I want to do it as efficiently and as quickly as possible so that it doesn't end up costing them lots of money because obviously I want them to work with me again and I don't want to feel like I'm ripping them off.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, I want to produce it to a quality that I think is good enough and representative of what I'm capable of
Yeah.
because I wouldn't want to rush it, do an average job, and then people to see it and be like, ah, he's okay, I guess. I want
Yeah.
people to look at it and go, oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Uh, so that's a very difficult balancing act. And more often than not, I end up just kind of ripping myself off and being like, yeah, just pay me this because I, I just feel bad. Like I don't want.
Oh, I have that same thing as well. I get what you mean. You always feel like you're always underperforming and never giving enough.
Yeah.
Um, Even though like you put everything into it, but you've always got that thing. It's like, oh, I didn't get up that one morning and start doing it back then, or like whatever about it.
Yeah.
And it's interesting as well. Like this is an interesting thing about YouTube as well. Just sort of change the subject a little bit. Is that you could be like such a big creator as well, and never like have like you can be anonymous essentially, and that's like a very, I think,
Mm.
interesting and great part about YouTube. And I'm very curious, especially with yourself, like what were some of the major reasons for yourself in staying anonymous, especially when you want to go on and do like further projects with like your animation or even more storytelling based stuff. So yeah, what's been like sort of like your thought process with start trying to like initially be anonymous?
So the starting point of that was when was trying to come up with the idea for the channel. Um, and so, as I mentioned before, when I was in university, I was like filming stuff and editing things. It didn't actually even begin there. There's some old videos on Vimeo which I've privated because they're just an absolute train wreck. But from years before, when I was in like high school and college, but I'd always been the guy who was behind the camera,
Mm.
um, kind of instigating things and directing the action, as it were. Nothing. It's not fiction at all. I'd always just kind of end up in like crazy situations and just kind of whip a camera out and start making things happen. Um,
Yeah.
but I've never really had much confidence on camera, and I have tried in the past. So before I moved out of London, I'd read a book called Goodbye Things by Fumio Sasaki, which is essentially just kind of like it's about minimalism and it's about how the things in your life end up owning you and blah blah. Just talking about the pleasure of throwing things away and
Mm.
the kind of liberation that brings. And I really got into it. Like when I was reading the book, it made me feel good just thinking about Fumio throwing away his things. And and so his whole idea is that he's a photographer, professional photographer, really good.
Mm.
And when he started his kind of minimalism journey, he would find an object, and much like in the, have you seen Mary Kondo? Have you seen like her
No.
series?
No.
Basically, she believes that every object has an energy or like essentially like a soul to it,
Mm.
and you need to thank things before discarding them. She's got all this other stuff. I don't really buy into that, but his idea is that like lots of objects have a value, like an assumed value. Like you've paid $10 for this thing, so it's worth $10 to you, or somebody's gifted this to you and they're dear to you, so that it has this sentimental value which you can't really put a number on. And so for those reasons you keep this clutter in your life because you perceive it to have value, which isn't necessarily true. Unless
Mm.
an object's fulfilling a purpose and you're using it in your day-to-day life, it's not instrumental to your, not even survival, but just to your everyday life. What's the point of having it? It's occupying energy, it's occupying your thoughts. You look at a thing, say you look at a book you haven't finished reading, and that's something, an incomplete task that's bothering you in the back of your mind, that's there, taking up um, kind of real estate in your head.
Yeah.
So his idea was like pick up an object and get rid of it if you don't use it in your everyday life. But people attach to things for sentimental reasons. So what he did was he'd photograph the item and keep the photograph,
Yeah.
and then throw the item away. So if he ever wanted to revisit a memory or look at a thing again, he'd have the photograph to remember that object by. Having the physical object doesn't really matter. All it is a totem, a prompt to remember something.
Yeah.
And he says over the past 6 years that he's been throwing things away and photographing them, he's never once gone back to his photographs to look at something. He's never needed to. He's just got rid of it and it's gone and it's out of his life and it's saving him energy and time and stress. So my idea was kind of taking that and repurposing it, and I set up a camera, and what I did was I got a selection of objects and I recorded and I picked them up and explained where the object came from, what it meant to me, blah blah blah, just the history of that thing, and then I smashed it to pieces.
Wow.
Um, so I like demolished a whole bunch of my stuff and threw it all away, and I still got don't get me wrong, I'm not living a style at all. Like, I've still got so much crap.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I started the process, and I was kind of like looking back through the footage, and by God, I am wooden. I don't know what happens, but as soon as you point a camera at me, I just transform into this other being, this kind of like just this awkward, weird, like can't communicate properly. It's honestly like you're pointing a fucking gun at me. Like I change. Even like what's the word? Is it syntax? Just the way I deliver my sentences
Yeah.
changes. The Everything about me is just different, and I don't like it, and I don't like the way I look and the way I act and the way it makes me feel. And
Yeah.
so to get to a position where I'd practiced enough to be comfortable to sit in front of a camera and talk to it is just that's just such a long road that I never could even be bothered to go down. And automatically the solution to that was like, well, I can draw, I can animate, I'll just make a character that talks and I'll try and get used to the sound of my voice, because I initially I hated my voice. When I was first coming up with an idea for the channel, I was thinking, right, who do I know who's got a cool voice that I can write scripts for, who can read the lines and then I can animate the character. So I wasn't even going to speak to begin with.
Wow. That's like
um
that's actually weird to sort of think initially, because like even like now talking to you, it's just sort of just like I'm just going back to I'm just envisioning like the pizza talking to me now.
so yeah, like it took a lot for me to get the confidence in my voice just to have that in my videos. And even if you go back, like I hate it. Like I hate the video, but my first ever video, which is a review of a shitty film called Alien Contagion,
Yeah.
my delivery is like dead. Like, there's no inflections in my voice, there's no energy at all. It's just this kind of like plodding, monotonous, quiet, like hello and welcome to Junk Film Review. I'm really nervous. Like, it's bad, it's really bad. Like, I want to like take it down, but I don't. I've left it there.
I didn't get that
But
at all, but okay,
I just don't watch it. I ignore it, and it doesn't exist to me. I'm gonna remake that video.
really?
That's one of my plans, is to it will probably be for a milestone, I guess, maybe 50K or something. But I'd like to remake my first video at that point, so you can see, well, even just for myself, but so I can show how much I've changed. And I wouldn't do it word for word. I'd definitely rejig the script and add new jokes in and change it a little bit, so that even like a returning viewer would find something to gain from it, I guess. But I'd like to just see how far I've come in the process, because it's just watching that back is like, oh my God, this is so bad. um yeah, so
Wow.
that's where it came from. I'm very awkward on camera, very very awkward, and I just didn't want to put the time in. And I guess it's nice to have a separation, because right now obviously I'm at like 12K subscribers, I think.
Yeah.
Um, and so I'm not in any fear at all of ever being, not because people don't know what I look like, but I wouldn't, even if I was on camera, I'd be in no bother at all of being spotted in public or people knowing who I am and being like, it's that guy. Um, but at some point, obviously, I'm aiming to bring this channel to a position where I can fend for myself. You know, I can pay my bills and my rent and eat and just make the videos that I want to make. That's kind of my goal. That's kind of the dream right now, is to be in that position.
Yeah.
Um, but I just don't know. I just don't think I feel comfortable kind of walking around and thinking, like, is someone about to just fucking pop up out of nowhere and be like, hey, you're Cynic Snacks. Yeah, have a selfie. Like, that really just doesn't appeal to me at all. Like, it just makes me feel a bit sick.
Yeah.
Um, so I kind of want to do as much as I can to curb that from happening. But I feel like it is obviously an inevitability. But for now, I've got no real reason to, you know.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Quite
Yeah.
happy just being a little cartoon character and having little cartoon character friends.
Yeah. Yeah, that was like something. Yeah, I always considered, even for myself, just doing the considering whether or not uh, being anonymous or public or whatever with it. But I sort of, my first interview especially, like I did that one without even realizing that I was gonna do an interview series. So I sort of went, oh screw it, I'll just keep going with this. Um, yeah, and so yeah, I'm always very curious, like sort of how people react to being like anonymous and like revealing sort of like the face to the
So
internet.
I guess as well, like we mentioned previously, just about where I've come from creatively is a much grimmer, darker place. And I think, as I said, this kind of the Cynic Snacks junk film review idea is just one idea. It's not really who I am.
Yeah,
And so I think people are going to have a bit of a misconception of what to expect from me. I'm not a very uh, colorful or wacky person.
yeah,
um, and so, yeah, there's definitely a detachment there between the way that this particular project is presented and who I am as a person. And also, I don't want the things that I say in my videos to be representative of who I am, because that's not necessarily true. I'll say things for the purposes of a joke, but they're
yeah,
not my honest gospel truth, you know. And that's something that's really difficult these days, especially with the kind of the cancel culture and the way that social media works. Is like everything you say will be in stone forever, and you can't recover from it. And it's a nightmare. It's like I'm just trying to make humorous content, so sometimes I'll bend the truth or say something that's not necessarily correct, or you know but it's just for the purposes of entertainment. I'm not writing a fucking textbook.
yeah. So, because you even just touched on there as well as the, like, are you worried about how like even like your YouTube could even affect your sort of future or like your professional life as well, sort of like being associated to, so even though it's not necessarily like explicitly bad or anything like that, but do you ever have that worry about like being connected in that sort of regard?
um I guess to a certain degree, but I think that's just like a normal, yeah, it's just a fear that everyone kind of has, I guess. But I
Mm,
think it, there's some ideas for videos that I have that I'd really like to do, but they would require me appearing in them, just because the logistically it just wouldn't make any sense for me to not. Um, and so they're just kind of things I'm holding on to, and I'll eventually get around to making. Um, but
yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I think generally, I feel like I'm, I feel like I'm a liberal enough of a person to not get attacked by
Yeah.
the mentalists. But
Well, I think that's a great segue. I think that's an amazing segue to something I wanted to talk about. Because, yes,
yeah,
like, both you and I, probably liberal enough that we're not going to have cancel culture. But what we might have is people coming in and calling us. What was the right word? What was the description that was used? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Come on, hop up. Let's just say people, especially from like alt-right extremist circles, have you had any much of that in dealing with? Because I recently had my first encounter with with alt-right comments through the podcast.
Oh.
Yeah. Basically, it was great. What was it? What somebody said, like, when people like Ryan and Snacks complain about who whites and prejudice, what they're really up to is making a downward social comparison between themselves and the rest of society in order to increase their sense of social status via unearned moral superiority. Like,
Oh, Jesus Christ. The thing is, like, I think just fucking take a chill, man. Things aren't that deep at all. It's like when I was in it was like my English literature class in college. We had a famous poet come in to read some of his new work. I can't remember who it is, and I'm terribly sorry that I don't remember because I don't care. But for the purposes of the story, it doesn't matter. He was just a famous poet.
yeah,
And he'd come in to read some of his new work and do a Q&A with the class. And we'd spent all year like kind of like analyzing stuff and learning how to analyze stuff. And so, you know, college kids been learning. We think we know fucking everything. We think we're so smart.
yeah,
And this like poet comes in, reads this shit, does a Q&A, and some kid puts his hand up and he's like, "In your poem, blah blah blah, I really love the fact that you've used the color blue to demonstrate the blah blah blah," and just went off on this fucking like poncy tangent about like this breakdown of this one line of poetry that the guy had written, and the poet was just looking so confused at this kid, and then afterwards was like, "Did your tutor like tell you this?" And he was like, "No, no, no. It's just we've been doing a lot of analysis and breaking stuff down." He was like, "Mate, like I didn't even think that for a second. No."
yeah,
It was like, "I literally just made it blue because I wanted it to be blue. There's nothing deeper to it than that."
yeah. Well,
And I think there's a lot of the reason I've told that really crap story
no,
is
it's
that
not
there's
crap.
a lot of over analyzing going on everywhere, and people think that they're just this amazing socio philosopher, and it's like, fucking chill out, man. I'm a talking pizza on the internet. Like, you
Yeah,
don't need to get so pressed about, not like, fuck off. We're talking about films, we're not talking about politics or race, or like, just leave. Stop.
yeah.
It's exhausting.
I get what you mean. Like, just like even going through this, like, because as a comment thread, I couldn't help. I had a little bit of a chat with them because it's great because it's like a lot of sort of like alt right people especially uh
Mm.
have anime, like this weird anime obsession.
Okay.
And both these people had like heavy anime profiles. I thought this was great, but like they're like going in and talking about like juice, like bracket juice, like obviously inference like with the Jews and stuff like that. I'm like, where is this coming from? But
Mm.
it's even interesting there about like how you're talking with the story. It's just like that how people derive like this like high like level of like theory and analysis from different things. And it just reminded
Yeah.
me of a video that I watched. It was by the director of Shazam. Have you seen that? His
I've
analysis?
seen Shazam. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, the director did an analysis of Shazam and as a video on his own personal YouTube channel. And it is his
Yeah.
channel is absolutely fascinating because it like breaks down like his like fairly large productions and like different shots from it and like how he's done this and that. And he's just like gone through and like shown like major like errors in the film and then being like, this is why this happened.
Oh, I've seen some of those. I've seen some of those.
Yeah.
He
And
was talking about how why they made the kids put their coats on
yeah.
in a certain scene just because of the production schedule. It had absolutely nothing to do with the story, or he wasn't implying anything, or there was no artistic reason for it whatsoever. It was literally like, oh, we didn't have the girl to film that day, so we made the kids put their coats on in the previous scene, so it made sense in the following scene when they were wearing them.
Yeah. And it's just like all
Uh,
And then people are like, wow, it's obvious that she was too slow to take off her shoes and stuff like that. It's because she later became fast. You know, it's like
Yeah,
this.
yeah, fucking hell. That's the thing. Like people, you can prove, well, you can't prove, but you can argue any point that you want,
Yeah.
and you can try and derive some kind of evidence from things that people are saying, and it's just bullshit. It's all just bullshit.
Yeah.
And it's just so irritating because I'm not trying to make a political statement. I have no political influence whatsoever. Like, what I say is so inconsequential to anything. Yet people want to break it down and analyze it and try and say X, Y, and Z about who I am as a person. And it's like, you don't even know what I look like, you fucking cunt. So,
Yeah.
how? Why are you making these assumptions of me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like it's.
Plus, also, that's one of the things that kind of I guess I need to work on. I don't know, but in the podcast in particular, I don't have as much control over it. Obviously, in my videos, I write every word, and I record every word, and I edit every word, and then I post it. And so I have complete control over the way things are said and everything that goes in there. And I do often rewrite jokes because I'm like, it's funny, but I feel comfortable saying that, but I know that there are people out there that will get pissed off and upset about it. And I've even had instances in the past where I've written a joke that I thought was fairly edgy, but at the same time, it was kind of. I felt like it was okay. I was basically saying, like, there was this film that I looked at that was just so insanely impossible to understand that I wasn't autistic enough to be able to understand it. And that was kind of the way the joke was written. And I thought that I was like, yeah, it's a bit edgy, but it's okay. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying I'm dumb. I'm really dumb, and I'd need a much smarter, more capable brain to be able to deconstruct what's happening here, and I can't because I'm not autistic enough. And yet, and still I had people firing off in the comments being like, well, why are you trying to glorify autism? It's actually it's like, yeah, I fucking know. I don't think it's amazing, but did I say it was bad? Did I call, like, no?
Wait, can I just say I'm probably going to use this as a highlight thumbnail. Can I put on the thumbnail? I'm not autistic enough.
No.
Ah.
Please don't make me that guy. But like, and so there've been so many times where I've written a joke, I've even recorded it, and then been like, nah, I can't say that. That's gonna piss people off. So I do a lot of self-censorship. But I'm a fucking human being. I'm not flawless. I'm not perfect. I probably have some opinions that definitely need some work. I probably even have some unconscious prejudices that need working on and like ironing out. Like, I'm not a fucking saint. I think everyone is the same. In that respect, everyone has these kind of slightly wrong knee-jerk reactions to things that need to kind of, you need to sort yourself out.
Yeah.
But when we're in the kind of the podcast format, like live talking, we go off on these weird tangents, and we're talking about very silly, stupid things, and often the conversation gets to like pooing or Nazis or pedos or just stupid dumb shit that friends joke about. And there are often times where a guest will say something or I will say something, and then immediately afterwards I'm like, fuck, why did I say that? It's not even that funny. It's not clever, and all it is just offensive. You've just said an offensive thing, and you've probably pissed off a bunch of people, and you probably upset someone. Why have you done that? And it's really difficult. Like, I'd like to be better at it, but when you're in the moment and you're trying to think on your feet and say things you think might be funny, I misfire all the time. And I just say stupid shit, and I just regret it and wish I'd never ever did the podcast.
I get that very much. Yeah, and it's quite interesting. I think that's like a very important take you take there as well. Just sort of like this level of like self-reflectionism, where you sort of always sort of stepping on where you think like an appropriate like step to go, especially with like even like yourself as like I guess as like a public platform as well,
Yeah.
and worried about
It's
like
just difficult as well, especially talking with when Professor Tosspot's on the podcast.
yeah,
He's a character, and his character is a very old man and some very old, outdated opinions on things, especially when it comes to war and like races and things like that. And so he has the room, I think, creatively to say things that aren't okay.
yeah.
But when you're trying to have a conversation with a character who is allowed to say stuff like that, it's very difficult
I guess
to bring it back round into the realms of acceptability without looking like an asshole yourself.
and I guess that's sort of maybe even for like your perspective, like that might sort of like blur the lines as well between like performance to like
Yeah,
conversation.
definitely.
And that might be sort of difficult because like you're not too sure if you're doing something like it may come across like less ironic than it should.
Yeah,
Um,
and I think that's something I kind of need to work on myself. That there isn't enough of a separation between this character of whoever this fucking pizza is and myself.
yeah,
Because in the videos, he's very much another entity that I am giving a voice to. But when I'm appearing on the podcast, it's very much me,
yeah,
um, with the avatar as my avatar.
yeah.
And so I guess I need to separate the art from the artist a bit more. And that's definitely something I need to work on, especially if I'm going to start moving into other areas and doing different projects, just so that people are not 100% identifying me with the pizza character, I guess.
Yeah, just you could just use my face if you want on the podcast.
Yeah.
Just throw that up there. You could do that.
But I guess I need to develop the character more so that it is different to me, because we're very similar, I think.
Yeah. Well, another idea even with that. So you have your character on the Cynic Snacks, and
Mhm.
then on the podcast, you just have that character, but with glasses and a mustache. So it's not the pizza character; it's you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's some big brain plays right there. Anyway, like,
Well, he does in the podcast. I am wearing a suit, and I don't actually wear a suit in my videos.
oh, that is true.
I just wanted to appear to
True.
be a bit more formal because obviously Tosspot's got his little bow tie and jacket, and CJ's got his suit on, and I just look like a bit of a scumbag with my beer, sat there naked. So I drew a shirt and tie
Well,
on.
now that does put on like the inference then now is that anytime you now do a video without the suit, you are essentially revealing yourself to the
Oh no, I've
audience.
already admitted that. I've already said. I think
Yeah, you said like
uh,
you are naked in your Q and A
I am
about
naked,
yeah,
apart from my hat.
when I was asking questions about your girth or something like that.
Oh man, yeah.
Um, I'm I guess wrapping up this thing because you've talked very much about even in just before is uh, you like with your alien video like you're not necessarily very proud of that one and you want to go
No.
back and remake it and edit it and whatever just so you have a more confident upload with it as well.
Yeah.
What to you sort of makes uh you proud of a video and what has been sort of like your most proud video on the Cynic Snacks channel?
Um. So in, I guess I just have to be happy with the way the entire thing looks. And I think earlier on, some of the animated sections that I've done aren't quite where I wanted them to be. But I think at the time, I just didn't have the ability to make it the way I wanted it to look. So if you look at all of my videos apart from my most recent one, they have a very different intro sequence that was just kind of like a hand drawn animation sequence with like the name of the channel appearing,
Mm.
and the theme song. And so it wasn't until very recently, my most recent video, that I actually got together the equipment that I needed and the materials that I needed to make my intro the way I wanted it to look.
Mm.
And I've made these kind of plasticine models that I've done some stop frame animation with, and I built a set out of cardboard and felt. Like I built a little TV and a
Yeah,
stand and
it was
a rug and a.
absolutely phenomenal. Like I when I saw
Oh,
that,
thanks, man.
it was just like even especially like for your size, just like the amount of work to go into that intro was absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, that took quite a few days to build all the models, and
Mm,
then the actual shooting and editing probably took another couple of days.
mm.
But that was like solid, like full days, sat down, grafting. Um, but that's what I want to do. I want to sorry,
That's right.
I want to be producing things at the best quality that I can.
Mm.
Like I don't feel comfortable putting stuff out there that's like meh. There's so many videos that I've just completely scrapped, even ones that are almost finished. That I've kind of because I've got this really bad habit of re-watching stuff constantly when I'm in the editing process. I think I spend probably about 30 to 40% of my time just
Yeah.
retreading old ground, and so I'll make the slightest tweak to something, and then I'll rewatch the entire video. And as you get towards the
Yeah.
end, that's it's like 5 6 minutes where you're like watching the same shit over and
And
over, and
especially the same
it's
joke.
stupid. Yeah.
Where yeah.
Um. So, you know, I'm happy with the stuff that I've done so far, and I think that it's representative of my abilities at that time. But every day I'm learning something new, or I'm getting a new stupid musical instrument, or I'm getting some new materials, or I'm, you know, learning a new technique. And so every day I'm improving, and every day the work that I look back on is crapper and crapper. And so I'm constantly in a state of I'm really happy with the project as soon as it's finished. I'm happy when I upload it initially and then it's done, and then I'm immediately dissatisfied and looking towards the next thing like, right, what can I do now? Um
Mm.
and I guess I don't know, maybe I need to just like chill a bit and be more content with what I've done. But I don't often look back on the older stuff. Like I'll occasionally like dip on like YouTube, the YouTube Studio, go back and see if there's like new comments and stuff and interact with people. But typically, I just kind of forget about the older videos. Like
Mm.
my idea originally was to create a bunch of assets that I could reuse. So before it was funny, like before I made my first video, before I made Alien Contagion, right, if I can build a bunch of sets, the characters, do a bunch of the animations, I can then put all the work into this first episode, and then all the other ones afterwards will just get easier and easier because I've already done the bulk of the work, and I can just repurpose stuff and reuse stuff to save
Mm.
time. How wrong I was. That was the least amount of time I've ever spent on a video, and I haven't reused any of that stuff. Apart from maybe like the actual body shape of my pizza character, I've redrawn and remade everything,
Mm.
like every video. And I just really don't need to do that, but I just don't feel comfortable unless I make things as difficult as possible for myself.
Yeah, I get that. But man, you're fast at the drawings, man. Like you drew my suit in that podcast. That was
Oh, yeah.
I was like, oh wow, that's some custom Ryan suit right there. I was quite happy with that. But
Um,
yeah, and so what has do you say what has been like your like absolute most proud video
I'd say
as a whole?
probably,
Yeah.
I think my most recent is maybe, I don't know, there's just elements of each video that I prefer over others. Like, so with my most recent, I really like my new intro.
Yeah.
Great. I think that's way better than anything that came before it in terms of the intro. But then, so towards the end of the video, when I've determined that the film isn't actually worth saving and I demolish it, I think with the ninja video, I'd ran out of time towards the end and I needed to get it out by the deadline I'd set myself,
Yeah.
and I would have rathered have ordered some kind of samurai sword or something to chop the film in half with at the end. But I just ran out of time. I didn't really have the money, and so I just bought some like karate hand wraps, put those on, and then just like punched it to pieces. Um, and like I'm not really happy with that because if you look at my worst of 2018 video, I really went all out with the destruction sections in that, and at the very end, I destroyed the worst film of the year using a JCB digger.
Yeah.
I like dropped the digger bucket on top of it and smashed it to bits.
Damn.
And I kind of thought, like, as the channel builds and I get more subscribers and I can bring in a bit more money to use in my videos, I can increase the kind of ridiculousness of the end of the video. Because I do eventually, I want to be fucking throwing a DVD out of a plane, or I don't know, pouring molten metal onto it, or just doing like crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And I'd like to get to that point. And I think after the huge climax of the worst of 2018, using a giant digger bucket to smash the film, coming back and then just punching one with ninja hands is a bit like meh. I could have bought some shuriken or whatever they're called and thrown them at it.
Oh, that would have been good.
And so I guess I'd say, so my worst of 2018 video, that's my favorite ending, is using the JCB digger to smash the DVD. So I think like my favorite moments are literally just moments from a whole variety of my videos. I think
Okay.
it's just hard to say because at the time of writing, I enjoy it and I think it's funny and I laugh at what I write. And then I record the voiceover and I still find enjoyment in it and it's fun and I laugh and like I genuinely laugh and record it and have a good time fucking around talking about the movies. But then when I watch them back, I've got like the most straight face ever. Like I don't really enjoy watching them. And it sucks. I wish I could enjoy my own stuff because like I really struggle to like judge my own work after it's done.
Yeah, I get that.
So I just look at it and I'm like, meh, that's a problem. That was a mistake. I said that line kind of badly. That bit's not edited nice. Like I only really see the bad points.
Hmm.
But then I guess maybe as more time passes, I'll be able to come back and actually see them for what they are. But when they're all still quite so fresh in my mind, it's difficult. I need to like forget what I've said and forget the jokes that I've written and forget the clips from the movies. Which I don't know. Maybe if I beat myself in the head, or I don't know, there'll be a way to remove those memories.
Well, I think that's a very interesting thing as well. With, like, yeah, it's quite interesting that you sort of take different elements from the original. Like you can't say like one definitive most proud video because there's like different elements to make you happy with each one. And by the way, if you need a samurai sword, I got a fake one. So
Cool.
Yeah. But anyway, I think we can wrap it up there. So for those who don't know who are, which I think they're severely missing out, because even seeing that intro, like it took your channel from like, oh, high quality like YouTube like content to is this like something I'd see in like Cartoon Network? Like what's going on? Like there was like a massive step up. And so where can people find you to find this amazing content?
Yeah, so it's literally just go onto YouTube and type in Cynic Snacks or type in junk film review. It should just come up in the top there. My search and my SEO is not that bad, so you should be able to find me quite easily. I am on other socials, but I wouldn't plug them or recommend them. Don't follow me on Twitter because I just chat absolute shit and it's just embarrassing and I should just stop. My Instagram's okay. Maybe look me up on Instagram, but
there's some great art on Instagram. Come on.
I don't really post on there often. It's more just kind of additional stuff. So if I ever get any commissions to do some digital art, or I don't really get much time to create stuff for Instagram anymore because I'm either earning the bag or working on my own videos for YouTube. But
yeah,
maybe follow me on there.
Yeah,
if you want to make me feel nice,
do it
about myself.
Do it. It's great. Follow him everywhere. Hell, do it even on Twitter, okay? Mr. Cynic Snacks has recently...
Yeah, follow me on Twitter, but then mute me.
Look...
So, just give me the follow, but don't look at what I say, because it's just garbage.
It's beautiful. It's bellissimo. Anyway, and for those who want to check out my other stuff, make sure you also go to the link below. We've got the Discord, we've got the Twitters, we've got the Twitches. We've also got both Cynic's and my Patreon in it, in the links
Ooh.
in the description down below. So, you know, if you want to help a brother out,
Yeah,
then-
I'm in the process of I say I'm in the process. I haven't even begun, but I'm trying to build a new PC because this crappy laptop that I'm working on is gonna die.
yeah,
very soon.
that recently happened to me. Yeah.
So every little helps. Just send me a penny, please. I'm begging you. I'm begging you right.
Yeah. And if any of you guys want to also watch the podcast between with me and the Great British Podcast, that'll also be in the description, where Cynic Snacks, Cynical Reviews, and Voxus Productions was in it. So anyway, thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in, and thank you, Mr. Cynic Snacks, for
Thank you for having me.
gracing me this fine evening. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and I'm really happy we had this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
No problem. And I hope you guys stick around, because we've got some great interviews coming up in the future. But anyway, see you later. Have a good time.